Hello everyone, Donna here, and welcome to April Vibes for 2021 Pick a Group or Pick a Pile reading. Now the way this works is you take a moment for yourself, and once you feel nice and relaxed, try to decide from the group of cards that are in front of you which one you feel most drawn to, or you feel you're guided to or being directed to choose Group 1, Group 2, or Group 3. So go ahead and take a moment, take a deep breath, and once you're ready, there will be timestamps in the section below and a pinned comment for you to be able to choose which one of these and go directly to that particular reading. Okay, we're going to go ahead and start with Group 1 cards here, and I'm going to go ahead and turn all of these over. I'm being directed I need to turn all of them over immediately to get to the start. All right, we're going to start with Group 1, and I'm immediately being directed that I need to go ahead and turn over the top cards right away before I begin. And right away, I'm noticing an overall feeling of a little bit more stability and hope is in the horizon for you in April. I'm not sure exactly what it is the whole of you have been experiencing. We all have been kind of going through our roller coaster of emotion and just trying to figure things out in the last year. But those of you who have picked this group, there's an overall message of hope and stability on the horizon for the month of April. It's not so much that they're going to be snap your fingers and everything's going to be perfect, but those vibrations, those things that happen, those experiences and situations that we live and exist in that make us feel like, okay, I understand this now, or okay, I feel like I have something to look forward to, or I feel that sense of stability that I've been searching for that makes me know that everything is going to be okay and we're going or turning in the correct direction. These are the vibes that you're going to be experiencing, and I do feel like this is going to be, for a lot of you, the most of you, it's going to be somewhere towards the middle of the month of April, feeling a little bit like somewhere around the end of the second week, and then of course that fluctuates for some of you, but somewhere around that time period, there's just going to be personal things in your life, experiences in your life, that's going to give you that overall sense of hope that you've been looking for, direction that you've been looking for, clarity that you've been looking for, that provides that sense of stability, that provides you that hope for stability, that provides you that insight that even no matter what it is that you're experiencing now or going through now, you know you can see that next stepping stone. You can see this foundation that has been laid. You can see the land on the horizon, the light at the end of the tunnel, all of those sorts of scenarios. And this is being presented primarily by these first two cards. We have the star card, which is really about that direction, that light of direction. It kind of indicates along that the North Star and how it's set in the sky in the northern horizon, and it's used for direction for those, especially those who were years ago in sailed in ships. This is the point of light that allowed you to be guided during the night, and gave you hope that you still had, even if you couldn't see where you're going and you were kind of guessing where you're going, you still knew where you were at by figuring out where that North Star was, and then by that you could also get a good sense of where it is that you're supposed to be headed. So I'm getting that overall sense of hope and getting guiding and direction, just getting a better sense of where you are and where you're going is that energy that you're going to be feeling. And then again, that is supported by the Four of Stones, which you have here, which has to do with stones is the card of the pentacles or the coins, which has to do with earth grounding, and that, like I said, it just really gets that, I feel that vibration and energy of stability, and feeling like you are kind of can zone in on your specific spot and get a better sense of awareness of where you are and where you're going. The image really sort of kind of pins that in a little bit when you see that stone that's in the center and how there's a path leading into it and a path leading out. The stone's in the center, but there's an overall, and it's surrounded by those circles. And just that having that sense of stability, that sense of knowledge, okay, this is where I'm at. And by getting to that point where you can say, okay, this is where I'm at, in the process of that, there's just this overall sense of now getting to where you can reflect, when the reflection is supported by the Six of Cups. You can reflect on things that have led to you to being in this position, and things just appear clearer. and you have a better grasp or better understanding of what was. And because of that, you have a better understanding and a better footing for where it is that you want to go, what can be, where you're planning on heading, where it's leading. So just everything's just kind of coming together for you and will make you feel more stable, more secure, not only in the present time period, but able to be in a position of releasing the things that made you feel less secure, that led up to this point in time, which creates space for leading into a more secure future. And again, this feels very, very heavily in the middle of April. You may start to see little things here and there that make you feel like, okay, I feel like I'm turning the corner, and it just kind of builds and builds until you get to that point where you have that aha moment where you feel like you're in the center of it, and you gain clarity when you are in the center of it. So the oracle overall theme I have pulled here is truth, and I feel that this is really hitting home on that concept of personal truth. This is validating and expanding upon that sense of and being in that center and feeling like you're in the zone and feeling like you recognize not only the present time period, but you recognize what it is that you need to know about the things that led up to the present period and what your personal truths are, what it is that you know to be true for you that can carry you as when you leave this position and move forward into the future. There's just some self-discovering that you're going to be experiencing when all of this sort of comes together, when all this sort of culminates in the near future. There's a sense of personal truth that's coming with it. So it's not so much truth from a broader sense. It's not so much truth from external senses. It's not so much truth as far as other people's position regarding any sort of experiences or situations that you have been going through. It's a personal truth. It's the depth of personal truth that allows you to not really care or not be influenced or not feel like you need to adjust who you are or the way you feel about things or the way that you are going to represent yourself based on other people's truth. It's the sort of truth that makes you feel so firmly set in who you are that you're not going to change your mind or you're not going to adjust or sacrifice your personal sovereignty because someone else may push against it or someone else may disagree with it. You can feel like you can stand steadfast and strong in this particular truth that you're owning, and that's going to help, like, again, pave that forward position, pave that movement into the future as you move from where you start to become centered, where you're going to feel in April that you become centered, and then move from there. And the final card I have for you is Autumn, and I feel like this is a timing thing. This is sort of letting you know, for a good bit of you, there are things that has been a long time building, again, looking into the past, leading to where you are presently, that point of being that you are now, that centering that you're feeling now, and getting the clarity on the past situation that led up to this point, and then moving forward, there's a culmination of things that have led to this particular point for you on a personal level, and as a result of that, there's a bit of unwinding, and there's a bit of stepping stones, and a sort of movement, and the travel, as you can say, the travel from the point of being or the point of center into the future is going to be its own entity. The travel from point center to into the future is not going to be a quick journey. There's a process. That's the term I'm looking for. There is a process to it. So when you finally get to the point where you have that personal truth that you feel so solid in, that you feel you can move forward, and that you know that no matter what you come against, you can hold fast to those truths, then you can start taking those steps forward, and you can take confidence in those steps as you move forward at every situation or experience that you have. But I feel like the unfolding of the past events that influence the current, present, you're going to see the culmination of that and the finalization of that more so in the autumn of this year. So it's not that it's not happening, but it's its own process. You're going to watch it kind of unfolding and organically moving into its own thing as you move into your own future. And the culmination of that, the finalization of that, when you feel like you've reached that point of now it's done, now it's finished, now I can go to the next chapter of my life. For you, a lot of you, it's going to be in the autumn time where you'll see that you've reached that kind of climax or that peak that you're looking for. All right, for those of you who have chosen group 1, that is all I have for you. I hope this reading gave you everything that you were hoping for and so much more, and hopefully I will see you in a future video. All right, moving on to group number 2. I am being told that I need to turn around these first 2 cards, and that's where we are going to begin. We have the One of Cups, and we have the Emperor. I feel like the One of Cups has to do with relationship. There's a healing that's happening regarding your relationships. So for those of you who are in a relationship of some sort, I don't feel like this is just focused on relationships on an intimate, spousal, lover sort of connection. This can include those sorts of relationships with people who really make our hearts swell with love, who make us feel like we can be who we have always wanted to be. People who really help us to see who we are. People who really help us to love us and self-accept. They accept us so much that it makes it easier for us to accept ourselves. But this feels like there has been a bit of disconnect. So those of you who have those people in your life but have experienced a bit of a disconnect, you are at a point that you're going to experience a rejoining, a reconnection with these people. So that connection that you have been missing or you've been longing for, the month of April is letting me feel as though some of those tethers or those bonds that may have frayed or may have gotten disconnected, there's a healing that's going to happen. It's going to start in the beginning of the month of April and flow throughout. So I get the overall sense that the entire month of April is being shown to me. So because of how many people this reached and because of each of you and where you are in your own personal journey, it seems as though there's so many of you that are linking into this group number 2 that this kind of flows for the whole month, because some of you it can be earlier and some of you it can be later. So as a whole, just be aware of this love flowing back into your life that you've missed. Like I said, that bond that may have been frayed, if not disconnected, that you have been sort of yearning to heal or reconnect with, that opportunity is going to show throughout the month of April, and the ability to begin the healing process is going to be brought back into your life. And I feel like the Emperor card, I'm being told that the Emperor card that is being presented here is just a reminder that in the process of healing and reconnecting with that person or these people that you have been yearning to reconnect with but have been kind of hesitant for reasons that most likely have to do with why you sort of disconnected. The Emperor card is letting you know that you don't have to feel like you're giving up any sense of sovereignty in the process of this healing. So I feel like there's quite a bit of you who are overwhelmed at the idea that in the process of reconnecting and in the process of healing and in the process of kind of mending those bonds, there is a fear that there's a part of self or a bit of submission that you don't really want to give into. And so you're not really too keen on jumping into those healing waters. And you're being told that you can make this connection, you can mend these broken ties, and you can begin this process of healing without losing your personal sovereignty. There is the capacity for it, but you're also being told to recognize what is personal sovereignty versus what is ego or arrogance. Be able to recognize whenever you feel that pushback or you feel the desire to push back or resist the healing process. Kind of analyze and look at yourself and try to recognize, are you losing personal sovereignty or are you losing face? Are you looking bad and therefore your ego side is looking bad? Be able to recognize and be able to wade through those waters appropriately, because healing and reconnection is definitely on the agenda or the potential for the month of April. And if you really want it, it is available for you. You just got to kind of wade through that water and just know that you can make it happen, and you don't have to lose face. You don't have to lose personal sovereignty. There is a way to make this happen, to still maintain a position of personal sovereignty, and just recognize the difference between sovereignty and ego. The next card we have is Wheel of Fortune, and I'm just being told, like, right off the bat, no matter what happens, no matter the choice that you make, no matter how things unfold, no matter the decisions and the progress that you make as you move through the month of April, not only for this, but other things too, time will go on. Things will just continue to go accordingly every day. You know, the sun rises every single day. So no matter what the choice is, progress in some form or another is going to happen. Moving forward in some way or another is going to happen. No matter what, taking the steps to move forward is going to happen. Tomorrow always comes, no matter what. The sun always rises in the morning, no matter what. So it's just kind of a reminder that whatever choice you decide, so for some of you, it feels like there are some of you who might decide or feel inclined to lean towards not taking the steps because of things that you feel is justified. And I'm not here to tell you whether they are or are not. I'm just saying that if you get to the point where you feel like you are losing too much of yourself in the process, you are justified in choosing yourself first. And just know that if the sacrifice of reconnecting with that person is more than you're willing to make, time will go on. It's okay. Time will continue to progress. You'll still carry yourself to the next step and the next step. And those who love you and watch out for you will still be there, available to support and have your back. Not only in this world, but those who have transitioned to the other world who we connect with, they still have your back. They're still watching over you. They're still taking care of you. They're still guiding you. They still love you. So no matter what, whatever choice it is that you make, time will go on. Things will still happen. Tomorrow will still come. The sun will still rise. The moon will still go through its cycle. The seasons will still flow from one to the other. Time will still progress no matter what. So don't get lost in feeling like you're supposed to do one thing or the other. Allow yourself to just honor yourself in the process of this. The next card I have is Forgiveness. I feel like this has to do with both forgiving the situation, maybe not so much the people that was involved in this, the first portion of this, but the situation. Give grace to the situation. You may not feel that you can forgive the events or the people involved in the events, but try to find a way to look at the events from a different angle so that you can at least give grace and forgiveness for the actual situation in and of itself, and therefore give forgiveness to yourself. And however that may apply when you're looking at the situation as a situation and not as the people who were involved in the situation. And know that there's liberation that occurs when we forgive. There's healing that begins when we forgive. It doesn't mean you have to give up personal sovereignty. It does not mean you have to give up that position and lose face and for some reason be submissive as a result of it. Submitting to the people, submitting to the situation, submitting to, things that may not have been correct. Things that you are justified in believing were incorrect. Every situation's different, but I feel like those statements apply to different people. But there is a sense of forgiveness when we give grace. There's a sense of liberation when we can look at the situation, not so much the people involved, but look at the situation from a different angle. Look at us in that part and forgive whatever it is that we need to forgive of ourselves. Forgive the situation for occurring, forgive ourselves and our part in the situation, and move on. But there's a sense of liberation that is there. If you can find a way to express the forgiveness that is keeping you trapped, as far as this connection in what was versus what is now and what could potentially be. Those are the bars of your cage. What was, what is, and what could be. Those are the bars of your cage. And the way that you can open up the door is forgiveness. And again, I'm not requesting losing face. I'm not requesting that you somehow be submissive. You can maintain your position of personal sovereignty and still find a way to be able to forgive. And that can open up the doors, that can break the bars that's holding you where you are and allow you to be able to be free as a result of it. And the last card I have is the Fire card. And right away, the word that comes to my mind is transformation, that purification and transformation that comes from fire, that fertile ground that comes as a result of fire. They say that usually the ground that has been where there are volcanoes, or the ground that has experienced forest fires, as devastating as it is, and of course it is obviously devastating, but that ground is more lush and fertile for new growth. The things that can grow there when the healing has occurred, after that, what can be grown there is just so lush and vibrant and gorgeous. And so there's an overall sense that there's a process of transformation that you have the potential of participating in. And as a result of that, what will follow that is new fertile ground for new regrowth that is lush and giving in a way that you've been hoping and pushing and yearning for of yourself. It's a personal growth thing that I really feel is there. Although for some of you, it can apply to the relationship, but on a personal level, this is kind of going to be a personal transformation. And as a result of it, the lushness on a personal level, the potential for it is just going to be gorgeous. And so, that's the whole process, the whole month, the vibration of the whole month of April. I feel like it's going to be back and forth, give and take, an increase of flow of emotion, and then, kind of a receding of that a little bit, and then it'll flow back in, then it'll recede a little bit. So it's going to be, you're going to have time to work through this. I get this term, tides, and how the moon affects the tides, and how you have high tide and you have low tide. And I feel like this is kind of a reiteration of how the flow of this is going to come throughout the month of April. And so it's not going to be all at once. You're going to have moments where you are recognizing that high tide of emotion and the high tide of the situation, and then it's going to recede and you'll have a bit of a break, and then it'll return. It's just going to be this back and forth flow that you're going to experience. So you'll have the month of April to sort of work through it and then get a little bit of a break, and then work through it and get a little bit of break, and just allow that spiral effect, that high tide, low tide sort of action and energy to guide you, but also rest in the time period of rest so that you can kind of recollect yourself. But there's just the potential for healing and the potential for growth that follows all of this is just really, it's thick. I don't know how else to express it other than it just feels very thick. So I wish you many, many blessings as you move through the month of April. I hope this reading gives you everything that you expected and so much more. And I really do hope that I will see you again in a future video. Okay, this reading is for group number 3, and I'm being told just to turn this card over first. And we have the 2 of arrows. So this is an indication of being in a position of having to make a choice, having to decide which scenario or which direction that you want to go. I'm being told, or I get the sense of some of this, for some of you, this is career oriented, but as a whole, it is very much life impacting. You're kind of at a crossroads, you could almost say. You have some choices that are coming up that you have to be reflective upon as far as where each of the options will take you. What is the pros and cons of both of them, not only in the present, but what are the pros and cons of both of them in the future? What can you, from where you're at, looking at the decision that's before you, can you presume will each option lead to? What sort of future will either of the options provide? And which one of those do you want? What are the pros and cons? And even if you can list the pros and cons, do the pros outweigh the cons? Which one of them are the pros outweighing the cons, and which one of them is the cons outweighing the pros? And it's just a really thick moment. Thick seems to be a word I'm using today. It seems to be quite a moment of just being almost overwhelmed with going around and around and around and trying to figure out which one of these things that you're facing are you supposed to be choosing. And no matter how, I get a sense that no matter how you look at it and how often you go over it in your head, you don't seem any closer to figuring it out than you were when you started. But this is still going to continue. This is a validation of what you're experiencing, and a validation that you will be hitting this cycle of thoughts again in the month of April, but I feel like this is predominantly going to be the beginning of April, and I get a sense that the cards coming up is going to give you a good feeling or a sense of the turnaround. So let's go ahead and turn the next two cards around. We have the Seven of Stones and we have the Magician. The Magician is upside down. Usually I turn them back around. I don't particularly do reversals very often, but I feel very strongly that I need to leave that there. But first I want to focus on the Seven of Stones, that concept of stability. However, Seven of Stones is a Seven of Pentacles in the traditional Rider-Waite system or the traditional tarot system, and there is an overall concept of patience. And right away I look at this and I see that spiral or that labyrinth look about how you would walk in to get to the center, and obviously it would be quicker if you just went straight through the rocks, but the way you're supposed to walk it is through the maze. And that's the overall sense of the time it takes to get to the core, to get to the center, that overall feeling of patience, going through the steps that you know you're supposed to, the steps that you know with absolute certainty and clarity that is the step that you're supposed to be taken. Stick to that. And don't get too focused or don't get too wrapped up in the steps that you feel should be there, but you can't see, or you feel should be available to you, but you're not aware of them like you feel like you should be. You're not supposed to be getting caught up in the stones that you think you should be seeing. You're supposed to be just focusing on that which you do see, that which you do know, that which you do already know with certainty and clarity. Take that step, focus on that, and be aware of the changes that you know is coming. Be aware of the changes that you know is on the foresight, and just allow it to be something that you're aware of, but not focused upon. Take the steps that you can see as you see them, and trust in those who watch over you to guide you when it is time to make that next step. Things will come with clarity as you move forward when you're supposed to be receiving that clarity. But don't get too caught up in demanding the clarity when it's just not time yet. The timing's not quite right. So there's a sense of patience. And I feel like this is going to make more sense as you move through April. Something about the second week, the beginning of the second week seems to be something that I'm getting, as far as it's not so much that you are going to have absolute clarity on the situation or the next step that you're supposed to be taking, but there's going to be just enough of the fog clearing, just enough of the clarity to make you feel less anxious and make you feel like you can kind of relax a little bit. That I do get a sense that is actually something that's going to come in the second week of April, more so at the beginning, a little bit towards the center, but that time period, there's an overall sense of being able to relax a little bit and understand the reason for being asked to be patient, and the reason for being asked to just kind of trust that it will all work out like it's supposed to. So just an overall sense that you're going to understand the payoff for the patience. I hope that makes sense. That all being said, you're still being asked to be patient. That's where the Magician card upside down is. The Magician card really talks about the things that you are capable of doing with something that it would be otherwise perceived as impossible, but you always have the tools within you to make it what you need to do, to have the magic within you, to suddenly create or become or do what it is that you desire or want to manifest. And that is true. That is still true. You still have all of that in you. You can still take a grain of dirt and make it into pearl like this particular picture presents. However, the reason why it's upside down is because you're having the reiteration of, okay, patience. There's still some time, that other things that are in your control need to be taken care of. So there are other elements in your life that impact your life that you don't have specific control of, but it can impact your life enough that you have to kind of go with the flow. So other people's decisions, other people's part in your life, the part that they play in your life, and even the workings of those who watch over us. You know, if you believe in spirit, believe in ancestors, believe in spirit guides. Those people, there are things that they are doing on your behalf on the other side, and they're still finalizing the details before you can dive in and do what you need to do here on the physical side. So there's just an overall sense of patience. Like, be aware. It's okay to be aware of the fact that you have a crossroads that you're facing. There are decisions that you have to make, but don't get caught up on the exactness and precision of that. Just be aware of it, and then allow yourself to take each step as it presents itself, and know that when it comes time for you to flip this card over and no longer be patient, but to dive in like you're supposed to dive in and you are capable of doing, you will know, you will be guided to do that. But the theme seems to be very, very much about patience, waiting your time, biding your time, and taking each step as it unfolds before you, as it presents in front of you. And find a way to be confident in that instead of knowing all the things about the situation. Find a way to be confident in that which you do know, and know that when you need to know more, it will be given to you. It will be provided. The messages, the guidance, the direction that you want. When it's time, it will be provided, just like all the other times in your life you had been provided guidance and direction at exactly the right time. That still applies with this. With this particular card, I feel like the image speaks to me so much more than the word. So the word is song. I feel like that's going to resonate with a few of you. That specific word of song is going to resonate. That means something to you. But to me, the thing that I want to pull from this the most is how this person is meditating. They're taking the time to just be present with themselves and just meditating and just being present with themselves. I don't think I can put it any other flowery way than that. So I feel like this is just a request to not get too, again, going over that, repeating, reiterating that. Don't get too caught up in all the things and focusing on all the things and focusing on the need for clarity, but rather taking it one step at a time. And in the meantime, when you were in that position of being between the step that you're on and waiting for clarity on what the next step is, just be present with yourself. Be present with the connection that you have with the other side. Be present with the intuition that you have. Be present with the spirit and spirit guides that you have who are already on the other side, who have always protected you and guided you. Be present in that moment with that connection and those energies and those people that you know are there to guide you, and just be there. Not focusing on answering the questions, not focusing on trying to squint your eyes on a metaphorical level and see that next step, but be present with yourself in that moment and know that this is the step. This is where you're at. This is the position you're in. You see this step, you can sit on this step. You can sit on this stone. And in time, when it's correct, when it's the right time as it unfolds, you will visibly see the next step, and you will know that that's the time to get up and move. Just be present in the time. The last card is truth, and I feel like there's a search or quest that you're going through for personal truth. So in the process, one of the reasons why it's taking some time to go from one step to the next is because there are things that you're still discovering about yourself. There are things that you're still learning about what it is that you truly believe and what it is that you accept. And so while you are looking at the decision that you're facing as a this or that sort of scenario, those who watch over you and guide you know that it's not just this or that. Its core comes from you. And there's things about yourself that you are still kind of becoming aware of or knowing about yourself. There's some self-discoveries that you are experiencing, and once you get to that unfolding, once you recognize that personal truth, that this or that equation that you've been focusing on will all of a sudden not be a problem. The answer to the this or that question that you're seeking isn't really this or that. It's within yourself. There's something about yourself that you are still discovering. And you need this time and space because that particular truth makes everything else kind of come together. So I really hope that makes sense. I hope that wasn't a confusing statement to be ending on, but definitely, I guess the best way that I could summarize that is that when you are sitting in that step waiting for clarity on the next step. You're supposed to be present. And in the process of being present, there's things about yourself, your world, your belief system that's going to become known. It's a personal truth that you're going to realize. And in that, the future stepping stones will make more sense. The path, direction, and your capacity and your ability will make more sense. So I hope that makes sense to you. I hope that clarifies you. And I hope this reading gives you everything that you hoped for and so much more. And hopefully I will see you in a future video.